Welcome to this tutorial video on VoiceOver PowerPoint best practices. My name is Brittany McRae and I'm an instructional designer with the ETLT. I'll be joined by Kaylee Johnston, who is an educational media producer on the ETLT, as well as Doug McCauley, who is one of our seasoned course authors. So by the end of the session, you should be able to recognize the importance of evidence-based use of multimedia for learning, develop PowerPoint presentations that reflect Meyer's 12 principles of multimedia learning, and utilize resources available to aid in the creation of effective multimedia-based learning materials. So we're all faced with a really unique challenge this semester in having to rethink the way that we do things and step out of our comfort zones to a certain extent. Some of you may be very familiar with incorporating multimedia into your courses, where others may be considering this for the first time. A few key considerations to think about when adapting your face-to-face environment to a remote teaching scenario would include thinking about a traditional face-to-face classroom or lecture has 36 hours of time. However, moving lectures online does not represent a one-to-one shift. So 1 hour of online lecturing is not the same as 1 hour of face-to-face lecturing. So I'd like you to consider the following questions for a second. Do you start your class on time? Do you have to pause and wait for people to pay attention throughout the lecture? Do you have periods where students are discussing or debating topics? These are all aspects of a lecture that take time that does not really get accounted for in a remote teaching environment. So when we remove all of the time in a traditional face-to-face lecture that you spend on administration and management and things like that, you'll likely end up with about 2/3 to 3/4 of the amount of time spent in an online environment. So you should aim for this as a benchmark when planning your VoiceOver PowerPoints. Another thought is VoiceOver PowerPoints are a way for students to asynchronously engage with the learning materials. In a remote teaching environment, this is really important so that students can find their own way and time of working that suits for them. This situation is new to students as well, so providing that freedom and flexibility in mode of learning is really going to be important to our students this semester. And third, use the time you have in a VoiceOver PowerPoint very intentionally. So consider what concepts are more challenging or would require a clear explanation from the instructor. Those are the topics that should be covered in a VoiceOver PowerPoint. So you can scaffold the concepts effectively by having students read about simple or more foundational concepts prior to watching your videos to allow you to cover the more challenging concepts within your videos. Okay, so one of the tips for creating PowerPoint slides is to utilize a template. Queen's has many templates available, and if you're not using a standardized template, then ensure that you keep the design consistent, which would include the color scheme, font, and margins. So ensure you consult the resources on the Accessibility Hub to ensure that the design you've utilized aligns with Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act, or AODA. It's really important to include the learning outcomes for each presentation. The goal of these outcomes is to highlight what information students will receive by the end of the video. So kind of like you saw at the beginning of our video, you should aim to have something similar to that. By breaking the learning outcomes out and videos into manageable pieces, it's really helpful for students to be able to key into the concepts that they need more information on or to review after they've gone through the material. So this breaking down of the learning outcomes is actually called chunking. We encourage you to chunk your content into small 6 to 9 minute concept-based videos. It's much more beneficial for students to engage with 5 6-minute videos than 2 15-minute videos or 1 30-minute video. According to Meyer's 12 principles of multimedia learning, a mixture of text and images is the best practice we recommend for VoiceOver PowerPoints. It's important to remember that it is easy to cognitively overload students with too many inputs, such as audio voiceover, visual images, and having to physically read the slides at the same time. So everything that gets put on the slide really needs to be intentional and serve a specific purpose. So if you're providing graphs and or visuals on the slides, you should speak directly to those charts and try to direct students' attention accordingly on those graphics. Overall, your audio voiceover should be the main delivery method, and the text and graphics on the slide really are just supporting your audio. In order for your videos to be chunked to about 6 to 9 minutes long, the presentation should be around 6 to 9 slides long. This would provide for an average of spending 1 minute per slide. Now, of course, that's an average. If you have a very quick visual to address and you have more than 9 slides, that's of course fine, as this is just a general rule. With that being said, it's important to try not to spend more than 1 minute per slide. Learners will lose attention and engagement will suffer if the slides do not change, just as they would if the entire video was too long. So in order to keep the slides to approximately 1 minute long, there shouldn't be much more than 3 to 5 points per slide. These points are best represented in the form of bullet points that utilize keywords or high-level summary statements rather than full sentences. Remember that the main mode of delivery should be your audio voiceover, and the slides are a visual hook, and they guide the learners through the key concepts that will be discussed. This is also effective for helping students remember where key pieces of information are in the videos, so they don't have to watch the whole thing over if they don't feel they need to find a concept to review. So lastly, it's best to include any content references and credits to a references slide at the end of the presentation. This aids in reducing the cognitive load for students by keeping the slides lean and clean without any extraneous information to engage with. So those are some of the best practices with creating your slides. Let's go over to Kaylee now, who will speak about the more technical aspect of voiceover PowerPoints.
The following points will provide some best practices for setting up your recording environment and preparing to start your presentation. Preparing a script ahead of your recording will give you some reminders as to which topics you plan to discuss and the details of each point. Using the notes functionality in PowerPoint is a great way to do this. You can either record using the presenter view or print your slide notes ahead of time to read as you record. It's also important to set up your physical recording environment ahead of time. Consider choosing a room that is quiet and free of background noise if possible. Lighting is another consideration to make when setting up your space. If you are recording from home, you may not have access to fancy lighting equipment, and that's completely understandable. Some basic concepts to keep in mind before starting your recording, though, are to ensure that you don't have any prominent light sources directly behind your head if you're doing a webcam recording. This can lead to an overexposed background and an underexposed foreground, your face, which makes it a little bit harder for your audience to see you. Try switching things up and looking for a place to record that allows some light to shine onto your face rather than from directly behind you. Lastly, trying to speak naturally and with enthusiasm, just as you would in a traditional classroom lecture. Making sure that you're in a comfortable space will help with this. Another tip is to practice taking a few deep breaths before starting to help relax your mind and your body. If you misspeak or wish to repeat a sentence, a slide, or a paragraph, the best approach is to simply take a brief pause before continuing on. You do not need to restart your recording. This pause and any bloopers can easily be removed during post-production editing. It is best to avoid references to specific dates, times, or videos within the course. This will ensure that the content that you're creating can easily be reused in the future without any additional edits. And finally, providing a closing statement in the form of a summary or a conclusion can be a great way to wrap things up for the learners. Once you have delivered this closing message, a brief pause of 3 to 5 seconds can aid in the post-production stage as well. Next, we will hear from Doug McCauley. He's going to share some tips and tricks from his experience as a content author.
Hi, my name is Doug McCauley. I was the course author for an undergraduate course in mineral economics and also the instructor for the inaugural offering of that course in the winter 2020 term. I am presently the course author for a graduate course in advanced mineral economics that is now being developed. I hope that some of my personal learnings about aspects of developing content for online courses will be helpful to you. I have developed a strong appreciation for how different the online environment is from in-person interaction in a live setting. The total content for a week may be quite similar to what is delivered in 3 hour-long lectures or 2 lectures of different lengths, but packaging it in 6 to 8 self-contained videos is a specific type of challenge. I found it helpful to prepare an outline for the week, the number, titles, and sequence of videos, and placement of readings or assessments. Then, to develop a bullet list of topics to be covered in each video, and then to move to developing individual PowerPoints. At all levels, week outline, topics for videos, individual PowerPoints. This process was iterative, whether I liked that or not. It took a while for me to be able to consistently produce videos that were within recommended length. Sometimes it helped to move material on a secondary topic or illustrative example into a Word document that was included as optional material for that week. I have a natural pace of speaking that might be considered a bit slower than ideal, but I stuck to that, as it ensures a more relaxed, natural sound. Students can speed up the video to some extent if they prefer. The number of slides in my videos varies. Sometimes it was effective to build a chart in steps, so 4 to 6 slides would take the place of a single slide, but the time spent on each individual slide would be quite short. As I got more comfortable gauging the amount of content that could be covered in a target length of video, the number of slides became the result of the way the content was presented and not a driving factor. I have a standing desk which can be adjusted to different heights. I have a setting near the top end of its range, and then I slip a small footstool under my laptop to elevate it a bit further, so that when I'm facing the laptop camera, the camera is at my eye level. Standing to record allows me to more easily keep good posture and to speak naturally. For whatever reason, experience with recording did not lessen my being conscious of having the camera on. For each video, I have the camera on for the title slide and the next 1 to 2 slides, and for the final summary slide. For those, I memorize the points I will say and look directly into the camera while speaking. For the rest of a video, I use a clip and a small cloth to cover the camera. When a PowerPoint is finalized, I print a version of it, 3 slides per page. PowerPoint adds a lined section to the right of each slide, where I write fairly detailed script notes by hand. When recording the bulk of a video with the camera covered, I read from the script. I don't need to be thinking about what to say next all the time, and can focus on speaking clearly and with expression. Thank you for your attention. I wish you the very best in developing or translating course content for online delivery.